It's late as I sit here thinking about someone I've never met, and yet somehow, I've been making room for you in my life for longer than I realized. Maybe that sounds strange. How can someone miss a person they've never seen? I used to think that wasn't possible. Now, I'm not so sure. Before we go any further, I want to ask you something. Not as a viewer, but as someone whose heart still believes in meaningful connections. If these words bring you even a little comfort, I hope you'll stay with this channel, because there will always be another message waiting for hearts like yours. And if someone quietly comes to your mind while listening, share this with them. Sometimes love arrives through words before it ever arrives in person. Future wife, if life has been kind to us, maybe you're out there laughing today without knowing my name. Or maybe today has been heavy for you. Maybe you're pretending to be okay because that's what you've learned to do. Maybe you've smiled all day while carrying something no one else could see. If that's true, I hope, somehow these words find you. There is something I've been holding on to for a long time, not a secret, not a promise, just a place. A place in my life that no one has ever truly filled. People often talk about finding the one. I've never liked that phrase. It makes love sound like winning a lottery ticket. I don't believe real love happens because two perfect people accidentally meet. I think it begins much earlier. It begins when two people, living completely separate lives, slowly become the kind of people who are finally ready to recognize each other. Maybe that's what we're doing right now. You, without knowing me, without knowing you, growing through different seasons, learning different lessons, making different mistakes, and somehow walking toward the same destination. I wonder where you are tonight. Are you reading before bed? Driving home after work? Looking out a window while rain quietly taps against the glass? Or maybe you're lying awake asking yourself the same question I've asked more times than I can count. When will I finally meet the person who feels like home? That question changes you, not because it gives you answers, because it teaches patience. When I was younger, I thought love was mostly excitement, butterflies, long conversations until sunrise, constant messages, never wanting to say goodbye. Those things are beautiful, but I've learned they aren't what make love survive. Real love isn't measured by how loudly your heart beats the first time you meet. It's measured by how safe your heart feels after years of staying. That realization didn't come all at once. It arrived quietly, almost unnoticed, like sunlight slowly filling a room. And once I understood it, I couldn't see love the same way again. That's probably why I'm making this message. Not because I know who you are, but because I've stopped waiting for perfection. I'm waiting for something much simpler. Someone who can sit beside me in complete silence, without making the silence feel empty. Most people are afraid of silence. They rush to fill every pause, every conversation, every quiet drive, every dinner. But silence has always fascinated me, because silence tells the truth words often hide. You can pretend with conversations. You can't pretend with silence. One day, maybe we'll sit together with 2 cups of coffee growing cold between us. Neither of us trying to impress the other, neither of us searching for clever things to say, just breathing, watching the evening become night. And somehow, that will say more than thousands of conversations ever could. Funny, isn't it? People spend years searching for someone exciting. Then they spend the rest of their lives hoping that excitement eventually becomes peace. I've started searching for peace first. Maybe that's because life teaches you what really matters. After enough disappointments, you stop asking for perfect moments. You start asking for honest ones. I don't know what you've been through before this moment. Maybe someone made promises they never intended to keep. Maybe someone slowly became a stranger while standing right beside you. Maybe someone left without explaining why. Or maybe no one ever truly saw the version of you that existed beneath your smile. If any of those things are true, I hope you never blamed yourself for another person's inability to love well. People carry invisible wounds. Sometimes they hurt others simply because they never learned how to heal themselves. Understanding that doesn't erase pain, but it keeps pain from turning into bitterness, and bitterness is a heavy thing to carry into a future that hasn't even arrived yet. I don't want us to meet carrying the weight of people who were never meant to stay. I want us to meet lighter. Not because life was easy, because we finally learned what was worth holding on to, and what deserved to be left behind. There's something I've never told anyone. When I save a new contact in my phone, I sometimes pause for just a second. Not because I'm choosing a name, because one day, there will be a name that won't feel temporary, a name that won't disappear from my life after a few months. A name that won't become another forgotten conversation buried beneath hundreds of others, a name I'll never want to delete. And every time I scroll through my contacts, I'll smile because your name will simply be there, not as a dream anymore, not as a wish, but as part of everyday life. That's the beautiful thing about love. The biggest miracle isn't the wedding day. It isn't the first I love you. It isn't even the day two people meet. The real miracle happens afterward, when ordinary days become the ones you never want to lose. A random Tuesday, a grocery list, a missed phone call followed by "I made it home," a simple good morning, a quiet sleep well. Those tiny moments become priceless because of who they're shared with. Maybe that's why this title matters more than it first appears. My personal number is waiting for you. It isn't really about numbers. Anyone can type 10 digits, anyone can press call. But not everyone earns the privilege of becoming the person behind that call. One day, if life allows it, you'll have my number. Not because I was lonely, not because I needed someone to complete me, but because, after everything we've each lived through separately, you'll be the person I trust enough to answer, whether it's the happiest day of my life, or the hardest, and strangely, I think trust is far more romantic than destiny, because destiny may introduce two people. Trust is what convinces them to stay. Maybe that's why I haven't rushed this part of my life. Some people think waiting means nothing is happening. I think waiting is where the most important work quietly takes place, because the person you become, while waiting, is often the person your future marriage depends on. And there's one more reason my number is still waiting for you. But that reason has nothing to do with a phone. In fact, it's something I didn't understand until much later. I used to believe that love began the moment two people met. Now I think it begins much earlier. It begins in the quiet decisions no one else ever notices, the moments when you choose kindness instead of anger, the nights when you decide to forgive instead of carrying another burden into tomorrow, the mornings when you wake up and keep becoming a better person, even though no one is watching. Those moments don't make headlines, no one applauds them. But one day someone benefits from every one of them. Maybe that's what we're doing for each other right now, without realizing it. You are becoming the woman I'll one day thank God for. And I'm trying to become the man you won't have to question every time I leave the house. Because love isn't only about finding the right person. It's also about becoming someone who knows how to protect another person's peace. I've thought about that more than I probably should. Not because I'm afraid of commitment, because I respect it. There is something sacred about knowing another person trusts you with their heart. Trust isn't something you ask for, it's something you earn. Quietly. Over time, it's answering the phone when you're tired. It's remembering the little things no one else remembers. It's keeping your word, especially when keeping it is inconvenient. It's choosing honesty when a lie would be easier. Most people don't lose love overnight. They lose it one broken promise at a time, one forgotten conversation, one, "I'll do it tomorrow." One moment of feeling unheard, then another, and another, until two people who once couldn't stop talking begin living like polite strangers. I've seen that happen. Not only in relationships, in families, in friendships, even between parents and children. Distance rarely arrives with an announcement, it whispers. That's why I never want us to become careless with each other. I hope that years from now, if something is bothering you, you'll tell me before it becomes silence, because silence can be peaceful, but silence can also become a wall. The difference is whether two people are still reaching for each other. I hope we never stop reaching, even on difficult days, especially on difficult days. Life has a strange way of testing love, not with dramatic moments, with ordinary ones. A long day at work, bills waiting on the kitchen table. A forgotten anniversary that wasn't forgotten on purpose. A disagreement that begins over something small but is secretly about exhaustion. Those are the moments that quietly ask a question. Will you still choose each other today? I hope the answer is always yes. Not because we'll never make mistakes. We will. I'm certain of it. There will be days when one of us speaks too quickly. Days when one of us misunderstands the other. Days when patience feels harder than pride. But I hope we remember something simple. It's us. Not me against you. Not you against me. Just us. Standing together against whatever life places in front of us. That changes everything. Because winning an argument has never saved a relationship. Feeling understood has. Sometimes I wonder what your voice sounds like. Will it be soft? Confident? Will you laugh before you finish telling a funny story? Will you talk with your hands without noticing? Will your voice become quieter when you're tired? It's funny how little details become precious when they're attached to someone you love. Right now, I don't know any of them. And somehow, that makes me smile. Because there are still so many beautiful things left to discover. People often say mystery disappears after marriage. I don't believe that. I think real love creates a different kind of mystery. Years later, you'll still surprise each other. Not because you're hiding anything. Because human hearts never stop growing. There will always be another dream, another fear, another memory, another part of yourself waiting to be understood. That's what makes one lifetime feel too short. Not because time moves quickly, because one heart is too deep to finish discovering. Sometimes I imagine seeing your name appear on my phone. Not because something is wrong, just because you wanted to hear my voice. Maybe you'll call to tell me about something completely ordinary. A flower you saw, a song that reminded you of us, something funny that happened while buying groceries. Someone else might call those conversations meaningless. I think they'll become some of the most valuable moments of my life, because love doesn't live inside grand speeches, it hides inside ordinary interruptions. I made it home. Drive safely. Did you eat? I'm waiting for you. Simple words. Yet when spoken by the right person, they carry the weight of an entire world. That's why I chose this title. My personal number is waiting for you. Not because it's difficult to give someone a number, because giving someone access to your everyday life is one of the most intimate gifts you can offer. My number won't just connect you to my phone, it will connect you to my quiet mornings, my unfinished thoughts, my bad jokes, the moments when I need encouragement, the moments when I don't know what to say, the moments when hearing your voice is enough to remind me that I'm not facing life alone. Maybe that's what home really is, not a house, not an address, a voice that makes the world feel less heavy. I've realized something over the years: the older we become, the less impressed we are by perfection. Instead, begin searching for consistency. The person who still checks on you after an argument, the person who still chooses kindness when they're stressed, the person who still reaches for your hand after years instead of assuming you'll always be there. Love doesn't disappear because time passes, it disappears when gratitude does. That's something I never want to forget. If one day you become my wife, I hope I never become so comfortable that I stop appreciating you. I hope I still notice the little things, the way you smile without realizing it, the way you become quiet when you're thinking, the effort you put into making an ordinary day feel special. People don't grow apart because they suddenly stop loving. Sometimes, they simply stop noticing. I never want to stop noticing you, not after 1 year, not after 10, not after 50. Because love should never become invisible just because it has become familiar. And if you're listening to this somewhere in the world today, without knowing me, I hope you're not losing faith. I know waiting can feel lonely, especially when it seems like everyone else has already found what you've been praying for. But life doesn't move according to comparison. It moves according to timing. And timing has taught me something that took years to understand. The greatest relationships aren't built by people who arrived early. They're built by people who arrived ready. Maybe that's where we are today. Still becoming, still learning, still preparing for a conversation that hasn't happened yet, a conversation that might begin with nothing more than, and somehow, that single word could change the rest of our lives. But before that day ever comes, there's something I hope we both learn, because without it, even the strongest love begins to slowly lose its way. The lesson I'm talking about isn't complicated. In fact, it's so simple that many people overlook it. It's the quiet habit of making another person feel important, not only on birthdays, not only on anniversaries, not only after an argument, every ordinary day. I think that's where love quietly succeeds or quietly disappears. Imagine coming home after a long day. Nothing extraordinary happened. No celebration, no big news, just another day that looked almost exactly like yesterday. And yet, the first thing you ask each other isn't, "What's for dinner?" It's, "How are you, really?" There is something beautiful about being genuinely curious about the person you've chosen. Not because you don't know them, because you know there's always more to discover. People change, not all at once, little by little. Dreams change, fears change, priorities change. Even the things that make us laugh change over time. I hope we never assume we already know everything about each other. Because the moment curiosity disappears, connection quietly begins to fade. That's why I never want to stop asking questions, not out of doubt, out of love. What made you smile today? What made today difficult? What are you thinking about? What have you been carrying alone? Sometimes one sincere question can heal what 100 perfect sentences cannot. I've noticed something about this world. Everyone is busy talking. Very few people are truly listening. There's a difference. Listening isn't waiting for your turn to speak. It's making someone feel like their words matter. I hope if you ever tell me about your day, I never become distracted by my phone. I hope I look at you, really look at you, because eyes often answer questions before words do. There are moments when people don't need advice. They don't need solutions. They simply need to know someone is fully present. Maybe that's one of the greatest gifts we can give each other. Presence, real presence, not half attention, not distracted conversations, not listening while scrolling. Just here with each other. I've imagined something many times. One evening, years from now, we'll both be sitting in the living room after dinner. The television will be off. The house will be unusually quiet. Outside, rain will gently tap against the window. We'll each have a warm cup of coffee in our hands. Neither of us will be saying much, and suddenly one of us will smile. Not because something funny happened, because we'll realize this ordinary evening has quietly become one of the happiest moments of our lives. Isn't that amazing? The moments we spend our youth chasing are often loud. The moments we treasure later are usually quiet. I think that's one of life's most beautiful surprises. Happiness rarely announces itself. It arrives disguised as ordinary days. Maybe that's why so many people miss it. They're waiting for fireworks, while peace is already sitting beside them. Future wife. If you're anything like me, you've probably wondered whether lasting love still exists. The world gives us plenty of reasons to doubt: broken promises, short conversations, people leaving without explanation, relationships that end almost as quickly as they begin. Sometimes it feels like everyone is afraid of staying. Maybe because staying requires something excitement never will: patience. There is a version of love that social media rarely shows. It isn't dramatic. It doesn't need constant attention. It doesn't compete with anyone else's relationship. It simply grows. Slowly. Like a tree whose strongest roots are the ones no one can see. That's the kind of love I hope we build. Not the loudest, the strongest. Because storms don't ask whether a relationship looked beautiful. They reveal whether it was built well. Life will bring storms. There's no avoiding that. Days when plans fall apart. Days when money feels tight. Days when health becomes more important than comfort. Days when we don't have all the answers. I don't dream of a life without those moments. I dream of never facing them alone. There's a difference. I've learned that courage isn't pretending everything is fine. Courage is reaching for someone's hand while admitting you're scared. I hope we always have the courage to be honest. Honesty isn't weakness. Pretending is. I don't want us to become experts at hiding our feelings. I want us to become experts at protecting each other's hearts. There's something I've realized recently. The words "I love you" are important, but after enough years, people begin believing actions more than sentences. Opening the door when your hands are full. Making coffee before the other person wakes up. Remembering something they mentioned weeks ago. Waiting until they arrive home safely before going to sleep. Those moments quietly repeat the words "I love you" without speaking them. That's the language I hope we never forget. Sometimes I think about that future phone call. Not the first one of the thousands that will come after maybe. I'll be having a difficult day. The kind where nothing seems to go right. I'll look at my phone. Your name will appear on the screen. Before I even answer, something inside me will already feel lighter. Not because you'll magically solve every problem, because some people have a way of reminding us that we're not carrying life alone. That's what I hope we become for each other. Not perfect. Dependable. There's something comforting about knowing one person in this world will always answer when they can. And if they can't, they'll call back, not because they have to, because they want to. That kind of consistency is rare. And rare things deserve to be protected. I've been thinking about that word lately. Protected, not controlled, not possessed. Protected, there's a difference. Love should never feel like a cage. It should feel like a safe place to become more yourself. I never want you to feel smaller because you're with me. I hope you feel stronger, freer, more peaceful, because if loving someone requires them to lose themselves, then something has gone terribly wrong. I hope we keep encouraging each other's dreams even when they change, even when they take time, even when they seem impossible to everyone else. Because marriage shouldn't end someone's journey. It should give them a safe place to continue it. And maybe that's another reason my personal number is still waiting. It isn't waiting for someone perfect. It isn't waiting for someone who never makes mistakes. It's waiting for someone who understands that love isn't built in extraordinary moments. It's built in thousands of ordinary ones that slowly become extraordinary, because two people refuse to stop choosing each other. I don't know your name yet. I don't know your favorite song. I don't know what makes you laugh until you can't breathe. I don't know what kind of childhood shaped your heart, but I hope, wherever you are tonight, you're becoming someone who still believes that gentle love is possible, because I am too. And there's one habit I've been quietly practicing for years, a habit that I hope will matter more than anything I've said so far. I didn't understand its importance at first now. I can't imagine building a marriage without it. That habit is gratitude, not the kind people post about, the quiet kind, the kind that changes the way you look at someone you've seen every single day. I hope I never reach a point where your presence feels ordinary, because it won't be. There are millions of people in this world, millions of lives moving in different directions, millions of voices, millions of faces, and somehow, out of all of them, life will allow our paths to cross. How could I ever call that ordinary? Sometimes I think people don't fall out of love because love disappears. Sometimes they stop noticing the miracle standing right in front of them. The good morning that came without fail, the message asking if you arrived safely, the extra blanket quietly placed over you after you fell asleep on the couch, the glass of water left beside the bed, the favorite snack brought home without being asked. Tiny things, almost invisible. Until one day they're gone. Then people realize those tiny things were never tiny at all. They were love. I've promised myself something. If you become my wife, I never want appreciation to become an occasional event. I don't want you to hear thank you only when you've done something extraordinary. I want you to hear it because you exist in my life. Because I know how easy it is to become accustomed to blessings. And I never want that to happen with you. I hope years from now, I still smile when I hear your keys at the front door. I hope I still pause what I'm doing just to greet you. I hope I still ask how your day went, and truly want to hear every answer, even the long ones, especially the long ones, because those ordinary conversations are where two lives quietly stay connected. I've learned something by simply watching people. When children are small, they tell their parents everything, every little adventure, every funny thought, every tiny disappointment. Then, little by little, if they stop feeling heard, they stop sharing. Adults aren't much different. When someone feels ignored often enough, they begin keeping pieces of themselves hidden. Not because they want to, because silence starts feeling safer than disappointment. I never want our home to become a place where silence feels safer than honesty. If something hurts, tell me. If something makes you happy, tell me. If you're afraid, tell me. If you're excited about something that seems small to everyone else, please tell me. I don't want to know only the biggest moments of your life. I want to know the little moments that quietly become your days, because that's where life actually happens. not during vacations, not during celebrations. Life happens on ordinary Tuesday evenings, on grocery store walks, on slow Sunday mornings, on rainy afternoons when neither of us has anywhere important to be. Those are the memories I hope we'll build without even realizing it. People often believe memories are created by extraordinary events. I don't think that's true anymore. Some of the strongest memories are tied to almost nothing. The smell of fresh coffee, the sound of your footsteps coming down the hallway, the way sunlight enters the kitchen in the morning, the familiar ringtone when you call. One day, that ringtone won't simply mean my phone is ringing, it will mean you're there waiting on the other side. It's strange how something so ordinary can become deeply emotional. Maybe because love gives ordinary things extraordinary meaning. A chair becomes your chair. A mug becomes your favorite mug. A song becomes our song. A place becomes where we first talked for hours. A phone number becomes the quickest path back to each other. That's why I smile whenever I think about this title. My personal number is waiting for you. People might think it's about technology. It isn't. It's about trust. One day, if you're having the happiest day of your life, I hope I'm one of the first people you want to call. If you're having the hardest day, I hope you never hesitate to call me. Not because I always have the right words, but because I want you to know you'll never have to carry joy alone, and you'll never have to carry pain alone either. That's what partnership means to me. Not solving every problem, sharing every season. Spring doesn't last forever. Neither does winter. Life keeps changing. People keep changing. Our circumstances will change too. Maybe we'll move to another city. Maybe our plans won't unfold the way we imagined. Maybe we'll have moments that test everything we believed about ourselves. But I hope one thing never changes. The certainty that no matter where life takes us, we can always reach each other. Not just through a phone, through trust, through honesty, through patience, through choosing each other again and again. I've noticed something beautiful about older couples. Not all of them, but the ones who still look at each other with gentle eyes after decades. They rarely seem impressed by grand romantic gestures anymore. Instead, they've mastered something much quieter. They've learned each other's rhythms. One knows exactly when the other needs space. One notices when the other's smile doesn't quite reach their eyes. One remembers how the other takes their tea without asking. It's almost like they've learned another language, not spoken with words, spoken through attention. That's the kind of love I admire, not because it's perfect, because it's intentional. It says, I still see you, even after years. Maybe especially after years. I hope I never stop learning you. I hope every year reveals another piece of your heart I hadn't noticed before, because I don't want marriage to become the end of discovery. I want it to become the beginning of a deeper one, and if one day we disagree, because we will, I hope we never forget that the person sitting across from us is not the enemy. The problem is the problem, not the person. I think remembering that could save countless relationships. Pride whispers, win. Love whispers, understand. I hope love always speaks louder. Sometimes, late at night like this, I wonder if you've ever imagined me too. Not my face, not my name, just the feeling of knowing someone is out there preparing to love you with patience instead of pressure, with consistency instead of confusion, with peace instead of uncertainty. If you've ever hoped for that, then maybe we're already walking toward each other in ways we can't yet see. And maybe that's why I haven't rushed to give my heart away, because I don't want my number to become just another forgotten contact in someone's phone. I want it to become the number you call when life gives you good news, the number you call when life breaks your heart, the number you call, simply because hearing my voice makes the day feel lighter. And I hope yours becomes exactly that for me. Because there is one truth I've slowly learned. The strongest relationships are not built by two people who never feel afraid. They're built by two people who decide that even when fear appears, they'll keep choosing trust. It took me a long time to understand that. And the reason I finally did came from something so ordinary that most people would have overlooked it completely. It wasn't a grand moment. There were no fireworks, no dramatic music, no life-changing speech. Just an ordinary day that quietly asked me a question I couldn't ignore. What kind of husband do I want to become before I ever become someone's husband? That question stayed with me, not for a day, not for a week, for years. Because becoming ready isn't something that happens overnight, it's built in choices no one else ever sees. I've realized that it's easy to dream about a wedding. It's much harder to prepare for the thousands of ordinary days that come after it. Anyone can make promises when emotions are high. The real promise begins when life becomes normal again. When the decorations are gone. When the photos have been framed. When the excitement settles into routine. That's where love quietly asks, will you still choose each other today? I hope my answer is always yes. Not because every day will be easy, but because every day will still be worth choosing. Future wife. There are things I already know about you, even though we've never spoken. Not your favorite color, not your birthday, not the music you listen to while driving. I don't know any of those things. But I know this. You're human, which means there will be days when you're tired. Days when you doubt yourself. Days when you feel like you're not enough. Days when you'll smile in front of everyone else and quietly fall apart when you're finally alone. If that day ever comes, I hope you never feel like you have to hide it from me. You don't have to earn the right to be honest. I want honesty to be one of the safest places in our home, because pretending to be okay is exhausting. I've watched people spend years protecting everyone else from their pain. Eventually, they become strangers to themselves. I don't want that for either of us. If life feels heavy, let's say it if we're overwhelmed. Let's admit it if we're scared. Let's stop pretending we're not. Strength has never impressed me as much as sincerity. The strongest people I've ever admired weren't the ones who never cried. They were the ones who never stopped being kind after life gave them reasons to become cold. That's real strength. And I hope we protect that in each other. I've also been thinking about forgiveness, not because I expect perfection, because I know perfection doesn't exist. We'll disappoint each other sometimes. Not intentionally, simply because we're human. There will be forgotten conversations, misunderstood words, long days, moments when we're impatient, moments when we don't listen as well as we should. I hope we learn something important before those moments arrive. An apology isn't about winning. Forgiveness isn't about losing. Both are ways of saying, you matter more to me than my pride. I don't ever want pride to become louder than love. Pride builds walls, love opens doors, and every relationship eventually decides which one it wants to build. There is another thought that visits me often. It usually appears late at night, when everything becomes quiet, when the world finally slows down. I wonder what your evenings look like. Do you enjoy silence? Or do you leave music playing in the background? Do you stay up later than you should because your mind won't stop thinking? Do you make yourself a cup of tea before bed? Do you look out the window when it rains? I smile because one day I won't have to wonder. One day I'll simply know, not because I'll know everything, because life will slowly introduce us to each other's ordinary habits. And strangely, those ordinary habits may become my favorite part of loving you. I've noticed something about memories. People often remember feelings before they remember details. Years later, you might forget the exact date of something, the exact words that were spoken, the exact clothes someone wore, but you'll remember how they made you feel safe. Anxious, calm, ignored, loved. That's why I've stopped focusing on saying perfect things. I'd rather create a life where you consistently feel safe, because feelings stay longer than sentences. I hope when you hear my voice, you feel peace when my name appears on your phone. You feel relief instead of uncertainty. When I say, I'm on my way home, you believe it without hesitation. Trust grows like that. Quickly, repeatedly, one kept promise at a time. I've never wanted to be the most exciting person in someone's life. Excitement fades, consistency stays. I want to become someone whose presence makes your nervous system finally rest. Someone whose words match his actions. Someone who doesn't make you question where you stand. There is already enough uncertainty in this world. Love shouldn't become another one. Maybe that's why this message exists. Not to promise a perfect future, to promise the kind of effort that lasts longer than feelings, because feelings change. Commitment decides what happens next. I've heard people say, love shouldn't be work. I don't think that's true. Love shouldn't feel like carrying a burden, but it absolutely requires effort. Not exhausting effort, intentional effort. The effort to listen, to notice, to apologize, to laugh. To keep learning each other, to protect what you've built together. A beautiful garden doesn't stay beautiful because someone planted flowers once. It stays beautiful because someone keeps caring for it. Relationships aren't very different. Every conversation matters. Every small act of kindness matters. Every moment of patience matters. Every decision to forgive matters. Little by little, those moments become a lifetime. Future wife. If this message somehow reaches you before we ever meet, I hope it gives you one thing, not certainty. Hope. Hope that someone out there still believes gentle love isn't old-fashioned. Hope that loyalty hasn't disappeared. Hope that being understood is still possible. Hope that one day, a simple phone call won't just connect two people. It will connect two lives that spent years becoming ready for each other. And maybe, without realizing it, we're already much closer to that day than we think, because there's one final truth I've been carrying in my heart. A truth that completely changed the way I look at waiting, and once I understood it, waiting no longer felt like time being wasted. It started feeling like love, quietly preparing us for the moment our lives finally intersect. For a long time, I thought waiting was empty. I thought it was the space between the life I had and the life I wanted. Now I see it differently. Waiting isn't empty. It's full. Full of lessons we don't recognize until much later. If we met too early, maybe we wouldn't have appreciated each other. Maybe we would have still been trying to prove ourselves. Still chasing things that don't truly matter. Still confusing attention with affection. Still believing that love is supposed to be effortless instead of intentional. Sometimes the greatest gift life gives us is not saying yes immediately. Sometimes it's saying, not yet. Because not yet gives us time to grow into the people we're meant to become. I don't know what you've been learning during these years before we meet. Maybe patience, maybe resilience, maybe how to stop accepting less than you deserve. As for me, I've been learning that real love begins long before two hands ever meet. It begins with character, with integrity, with the kind of choices no one applauds. I've asked myself many times, If she met me today, would she feel safe with me? Not impressed. Those are two very different things. Being impressive can attract someone. Being dependable gives them peace, and peace is far more difficult to build. I hope that if you ever have to choose between someone exciting and someone consistent, you never underestimate consistency, because life isn't lived in highlights, it's lived in ordinary mornings, ordinary afternoons, ordinary evenings. That's where a marriage either becomes stronger or slowly begins to drift apart. I imagine a future where neither of us has anything extraordinary planned, no vacation, no celebration, no special occasion, just another normal day. You'll send me a simple message. Don't forget to eat. I'll smile without even realizing it. Not because the words are remarkable, because I'll know someone thought of me in the middle of their day. Those small reminders carry a quiet kind of love. They're easy to overlook until you've lived without them. I've noticed that people often remember grand gestures, but they live on small ones. A warm meal after a difficult day, a blanket placed over tired shoulders, a call that begins with, "I was just thinking about you." And maybe you'll look at your phone afterward, see my number, and hesitate for just a second before saving it. I hope you do, because I think there are some numbers we save without thinking, and there are others we save because somehow we already know they'll matter. Future wife, whenever that day comes, my number will be waiting for you. Not as pressure, not as a demand, just as a quiet invitation. Whenever you're ready, call me, and maybe when you finally call me, you won't say anything important at first. Maybe you'll simply say hello, and I'll say hello back. Two ordinary words, but sometimes, the most important moments begin with words that seem completely ordinary. I think about that sometimes. How strange it is that we can spend years wondering about the person we're going to love, and then one day, everything begins with something as simple as a voice saying, "Hello." You won't know how many times I imagined that moment, and I won't know how many times you wondered whether someone would ever make you feel safe enough to stop pretending that you're okay all the time. That's one of the things I hope we can give each other. A place where neither of us has to pretend, because there is a particular kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being alone. It comes from being surrounded by people and still feeling like nobody really knows you. You can have hundreds of contacts in your phone and still have nobody you want to call when your heart feels heavy. You can have people who know your name, your job, your habits, even your birthday, and still have nobody who knows what you're afraid of losing. That's why I don't want us to measure our connection by how often we speak. I want to measure it by how safe we feel when we do. Maybe some days we'll talk for hours. Maybe some days we'll barely speak. Life will happen. Work will happen. Responsibilities will happen. There will be mornings when one of us wakes up exhausted. There will be evenings when neither of us has enough energy for a long conversation. And I don't want those moments to frighten us. I don't want silence to automatically mean something is wrong. Because silence between two people who trust each other can be completely different from silence between two people who are afraid of losing each other. When trust exists, silence has room inside it. It doesn't immediately demand an explanation. It doesn't say, "Why aren't you talking to me?" It simply says, "I'm still here." I want us to know that kind of silence. The kind where you can put your phone down without worrying that the person on the other side will suddenly disappear emotionally. The kind where a missed call doesn't become a reason to question everything. The kind where you don't have to constantly prove that you care, because real connection shouldn't feel like an examination you are always afraid of failing. And future wife, if I ever make you feel like you have to earn my love every single day, remind me of this. Remind me that I once wanted something different. I wanted a relationship where love wasn't constantly being tested. I wanted two people who could make mistakes without immediately becoming enemies. Two people who could disagree without threatening to leave. Two people who could say, "That hurt me," without turning the conversation into a battle over who was right. That's something I've come to understand more deeply with time. Sometimes the most loving sentence isn't, "You're right." Sometimes it's, "I understand why that hurt you." There is a difference, because when someone is hurting, they don't always need you to solve the situation. Sometimes they need you to acknowledge that their feelings have somewhere to stand. And I want to learn that with you. I want to know when you need an answer, and when you simply need me to listen. I want to know the difference between your silence because you're peaceful, and your silence because something is bothering you. I want to recognize the little changes in your voice. Not because I want to control you, because I want to know you. There's something beautiful about being known slowly. Not everything at once, not through interrogation, not through trying to discover every detail in the first few weeks, but gradually, one conversation at a time, one morning at a time, one ordinary evening at a time. That's how people become familiar with each other. And perhaps that's what makes love stronger than attraction alone. Attraction can make you notice someone, but familiarity teaches you how to care for them. You begin to know what makes them laugh. You notice when they're unusually quiet. You remember how they take their coffee. You recognize the look they give you when they're trying not to cry. You know which subjects make them uncomfortable. You know when they need space, and eventually, caring stops feeling like an effort. It becomes part of how you move through life. I want that kind of love. Not the kind that looks perfect from far away. The kind that feels peaceful up